when I received an invitation from my great friend Brian Hess from the top Contractor School. I was invited to keynote their Inner Circle event in Fort Lauderdale this year. Little did I know that the first day when I gave my keynote, somebody in the audience, I didn't realize the connection that we had. This absolutely blew me away. Welcome back to another episode of The Burn. I am Ben Newman, and you know every week we bring you athletes, celebrities, entertainers, people performing at their highest possible level who have recognized that the consistent connection to their burn ignites the why and the purpose and causes them to have tremendous discipline, which leads to understanding what it truly means to show up and be your best. But occasionally, as you know, we show up and do special episodes where it's an opportunity for you and I to just be together one-on-one, to talk about that burn that lies inside of you. So here we are, halfway through the year. And the question I have for you is, how have you been showing up? You know, things in life don't happen by accident. I happen to be a pretty emotional guy. I've shared that with you. I cry when I watch extreme home makeovers. I've always been that way. That's why the burn resonates with me, because I recognize my connection to my mother's story, how she chose to live battling a rare muscle disease. And now my opportunity to continue to write her story is what ignites my why and my purpose, that causes me to do the things that most people won't do. So how have you been showing up with your connection to your burn every single day? Not occasionally, not a couple times a week, like every day. Things don't happen by accident. When you stay connected to what drives you, it's amazing what happens in your life. Today, as part of this episode, you're going to hear an unbelievable story. This absolutely blew me away. When I had the opportunity, when I received an invitation from my great friend Brian Hess from the top Contractor School. I was invited to keynote their Inner Circle event in Fort Lauderdale this year. Little did I know that the first day when I gave my keynote, somebody in the audience would be impacted by the story. Somebody in the audience, I didn't realize the connection that we had. I'm going to roll a clip from our time together at this Inner Circle event. I think this clip is going to blow you away, and it's going to help you realize that there are no accidents. The story that you write has a significant influence that is way bigger than us. Continue to stay connected to your burn. Enjoy this story, and I'll see you on the other side of it.
Something happened this morning that I want to share with you guys that's I believe what happens when you get a group of people together that are the right people and the right culture and the right core principles. Like, there's things that happen that in my heart I believe can only come from God, right? This morning as I was walking over here, I was having a conversation, and that conversation led into this room involving Ben Newman. And so I want to share this story with you guys because I think it will be something that you'll leave this event remembering for the rest of your life. So, Ben, come on up. Welcome, Ben Newman.
So this is in the game of football what we call an audible, right? I was not supposed to speak today. I got my sweats on. Yet sometimes they call the audible, and when you call an audible, you see the defense doing something, the quarterback's under center, and you say, we got to flip it and we got to run a different play. So we're going to run a different play to kick things off this morning. One of the things I did not mention in my talk, and I don't mention it all that often, is how we're actually partnering together to honor my mother. And so every time I'm brought in for an event, there are ongoing charities. Anytime I donate money, I always put it in honor of my mom. I never donate anything with my name on it. It's always in honor of my mother. I never put my name on it. And so there's a few ongoing charities that we have. You know, we mentioned the books that are going to be donated to the Dream Foundation in honor of teachers in my mother's name. There's a schoolroom down at the Kinbay School down in Mexico where my family goes every single Thanksgiving for 6 years in a row. So at Kinbay School, there's a Janet Fishman Newman schoolroom because my mother was a teacher. Then in St. Louis, there's a hospice center, and there's a beautiful hospice center where it's literally like a multi-million-dollar home. It's absolutely gorgeous. And in that hospice center, the first wing of it, there were 8 rooms, and my wife and I donated one of those rooms in honor of my mother. It's called the Janet Fishman Newman Legacy Room. One of the reasons why I wanted to do that was because my mother's last week living, I didn't get to see her. Because there wasn't a beautiful multi-million-dollar looking house for hospice care. It was a hospital. And the family made the decision that that hospital room and seeing my mother in the state that she was in was not for a little boy's eyes. So imagine your mother's last week living, you don't even get to see her. You're told you cannot go and see her. So we wanted to have that commitment to have that hospice room because it would be a beautiful place where little boys like me could actually spend the final hours and days for a mother to have peace and calm, but be able to spend it with her children. Also, at the Boston Medical Center, there is a research station. So I had the opportunity to speak at the Boston Medical Center in 2008. Right when I had first started speaking. It was one of my first speaking opportunities. And Dr. Martha Skinner, who I mentioned yesterday, I actually had the opportunity to meet her. So my mother passes in 1986, and in 2008, I get to go back to the Boston Medical Center. One of the reasons why they wanted to bring me in to speak is because we donated a research station at the Boston Medical Center in honor of my mother. It's a tiny little research department. I bet off memory, maybe there's 8 stations. 7, 8, maybe 6. And right there, it's got my mother's name, Janet Fishman Newman, in honor of her children and grandchildren. I don't even put my name there. It always says children and grandchildren. 2008, when I go, same conference room, same table. Remember yesterday when I said old rickety chair, rickety conference table? I sat at the same table, in the same conference room, maybe even in the same chair. Dr. Skinner walks in to meet me, to look into the big brown eyes that I got from my mother. And she was carrying a file that was about this thick. My mother passed away in 1986. This is 2008. Carrying a file this thick, handwritten on the file, Janet Fishman Newman. She sits down, opens up the file, and there were letters that my grandparents had sent to Dr. Skinner. Copies of letters Dr. Skinner had sent to my grandparents after the passing. Dr. Skinner looks at me, and it's a very emotional thing for me. My wife Amy is right next to me. I'm squeezing her hand terribly under the table, trying to just gather the emotion of going through hearing this. And Dr. Skinner looks at me, and I squeezed my wife's hand so hard, it was almost like, she had to resist it a little bit. She said, "Your mother died 10 years too soon. We now can treat amyloidosis with chemotherapy. It doesn't cure it, but your mother died 10 years too soon." Bob, can you come join me for a minute? So Bob Barnard and Brian work together, many of you know. And so Dr. Skinner says this to me in 2008. I walk in today, and Brian looks at me, and he says, "You didn't get a chance to meet Bob. Bob has amyloidosis, the same disease that took your mother's life." When I mentioned to you how rare this disease is, I've been speaking for 15 years. I think this is the second time I've ever met somebody who has amyloidosis in person. Literally put my hand on another person who has the disease that took my mother's life. I've maybe met 10 people who knew, in 15 years of speaking, maybe 10 total, that have ever come up and said, "Oh, I know my cousin has that disease." 10 people in 15 years. Spoken over 1,000 times probably. Bob shared something with me this morning that I did not know. There is now a pill. So now the advancement of chemotherapy, so I think from 2008 to 2021, there's a pill, doesn't cure it, but Bob is able to live and still do his marathon walks, and he's an athlete. But I want you to think about something. My mother had to die for him to live. And I told Bob, I said, can you imagine? So part of his case was sent to the Boston Medical Center because Dr. Skinner is one of the two foremost leading experts. She's retired now, but she still works almost full time. I said, can you imagine if your case actually went under the microscope in the research station that's named in honor of my mother?
Because of his mom, I'm alive. And there's, what they estimate is roughly about 45,000 people in the whole world have this. It's very rare. But I can continue doing my marathons and doing other stuff that I enjoy because of his mom. Thank you.
God bless you. Now, I shared with you how emotional I am. Now, having seen that video, I bet you're blown away. But as I mentioned, nothing happens by accident. When you stay connected to your burn, when you live your life with great intention, it's amazing what happens. It's amazing the individuals that you can impact, even when you don't know it. I want to say thank you. You know, I mentioned in that video the charitable donations that we make in honor of my mom. You know, that all happens because of you as well. Your support, maybe you sharing our videos, you staying connected to your burn as you write your story. We're in this fight together. And the highest performers that I've had the opportunity to work with, and I say this humbly, they know exactly what their burn is, and they stay connected to it. And they recognize sometimes we don't know. We have a big vision of what we want. We can't exactly see what's going to happen. But the impact that we have will stagger our imagination if we stay true to that burn, stay true to our purpose, and stay true to our fight. That's what happened with the story with Bob Barnard. Stay connected to your burn. Share this special episode with somebody that needs to hear it. I appreciate every single one of you, how you're choosing to show up. Make the next 6 months be the most consistent 6 months of your life in all areas. If you need help, if you're new to the burn with what balance looks like in your life and the design of winning one day at a time, make sure to check out our Prizefighter Day course. It's right there in the caption. It's free to help you live with great intention, fueled by your burn. We'll see you next week.